Israel's military commanders say its relentless airstrikes in Gaza has hit more than 22,000 targets since October the 7th. That is an average of 300 bombs being dropped every day. In the last few days, more details have come to light about the central role AI is playing in selecting targets, and with it, an increasing focus on whether that's part of the reason why civilian death toll in Gaza is so high. This is the bare detail we know from the Israeli military. It's a unit called the Target Administration Division, formed in 2019. In a short statement on the website, it says it uses an AI-based system called Habsora, the gospel in English, in the war against Hamas, to, quote, produce targets at a fast pace. Well, a group of investigative journalists have looked deeper at how it works, speaking to anonymous Israeli officials. And today's prospective guest is Yuval Abraham, a journalist at the Israeli-Palestinian publication Plus 792 magazine. First of all, Yuval, good to talk to you. Tell us what you found out about the gospel. How does it work?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. So the gospel is essentially, according to sources, a target machine. It automates most of the target creation process, creating targets with life and death consequences, as you said, at a rate that was before humanly impossible. Now, what it does is that it analyzes an amount of information that is so big that in the past, thousands of humans could not even process. You know, Gaza is under Israeli occupation. Israel controls it, the airspace, the electromagnetic space, the land, and it has a lot of access to intelligence that way. It has an intelligence chokehold. Now, sources that I've spoken to that have operated the gospel and have served in that center said that the emphasis was being placed on the quantity of targets, not on the quality of targets. They said the use of artificial intelligence is being an increasing trend in the military because in the past, the military ran out of targets in 2014 and in 2021. And this is viewed inside the military, according to sources, as a need to simultaneously be able to strike as many targets as possible, regardless of the particular military value of each target, in order to create a certain shock effect, according to sources, that places often civilian pressure on Hamas.
It's interesting, you mentioned a second ago just the previous conflicts where they were running out of targets, you said, for the airstrikes. I'll just quote some of your report saying that pre-2021, there were maybe 50 targets during a conflict. Actually, we're talking about 100. There was a point in 2021, a brief conflict between Israel and Hamas where they were looking at 100 targets. I imagine it would be more than that now. And you talk about lower ranked operatives. So you're talking about as specific as the homes of lower ranked Hamas militants being targeted. But each of the Israeli officials say to you, it's accurate, don't they?
So there are 2 points here. With regards to the homes, it's a very good and horrifying example, I think, because what we're talking about is a policy of dropping a bomb that weighs 2,000 pounds on a home in order to assassinate one person, okay? Now, in the past, imagine before artificial intelligence and automation, you would do that, say, for a group of very small senior leaders in Hamas, killing them and knowingly killing everybody around them. So it can be their families and their neighbors and the entire building. When you automate that process, when you have a need to strike hundreds and thousands of targets, you can do so in a systematic way. And sources have told me that in this operation, the collateral damage, you know, this killing of people around the target is dramatically higher than in previous operations. That now, I mean, sources have recalled how they are knowingly dropping bombs that are killing hundreds of Palestinian civilians in order to carry out an assassination attempt against one person. Now, official Israeli military sources claim that these strikes are accurate, but I have to say, as somebody who has spoken to several sources inside Israeli intelligence, that is just not true. Sources have described to me how they, for example, in this operation since October 7th, they are bombing targets in a very wide radius. So they will get an approximation of where a target for assassination is. It's not pinpointed, yet they will still bomb a very wide radius, again, knowingly killing civilians in ways that were not happening, according to these sources, before this current operation.
Well, your report and what you're just saying gets to the heart of the issue of proportionality, where Israel talks about the Geneva Convention, the IDF saying that there is an element of the protocol of an amendment to the Geneva Convention called Article 13, which looks at protecting civilians. And the proportionality comes in if there is sufficient warning has been given to civilians to evacuate and the target is deemed under international law a significant threat, then there is an argument about the degree of civilians killed under proportionality. What you're suggesting, though, is actually that is very questionable.
Yeah, I think it shows us the dangers, really the dangers of how this proportionality standard in international law is so vague, and how it allows nation states to really knowingly kill hundreds of civilians, carrying what my sources in intelligence said were clearly disproportionate strikes, and have it somehow legitimized. Because in the end, the Israeli military can say, well, for us, killing hundreds of Palestinian civilians, as has happened in the Jabalia refugee camp, as has happened a week ago in Shajaiya, in order to assassinate one person, well, for us, that's proportionate. And there is no end to it. It's a slippery slope. The next war, they can say, well, to kill thousands of Palestinian civilians for one target, that's proportionate for us. Proportionality is very, very vague, and it is intentionally vague, and that is dangerous. And we're seeing the results of that in this operation.
Two thoughts here. So they're operating the gospel, we assume, remotely, potentially kilometres or even hundreds of kilometres away. Is Israel at the cutting edge of this stuff? Is this something the Americans are using as well? An equivalent AI system? I mean, how much of a focus is on the Israelis right now in terms of the AI hardware it's using that we could see potentially replicated in the future?
Look, from my knowledge of the way this works, systems that are created in Israel and are tested in Gaza, they become, battle proven, are then often, I don't know specifically about the gospel, but we do know of other systems that were developed in the context of Gaza, and then were sold all over the world. We are seeing more and more militaries incorporating artificial intelligence. It is becoming, a larger part of our lives. The Israeli military is dramatically increasing its use of artificial intelligence and automation. And as I said, there is a specific context here. In the context of the wars in Gaza, really, the trend has been over the past years to place an emphasis on the quantity of targets. Yeah. I mean, one source recalled how, for example, in 2021 and in 2014, they ran out of targets. They had nothing left to bomb. There was nothing of quality to bomb, but there was political pressure to continue the war. There was a need to continue the pressure in Gaza. So one source recalled how in 2014, they would bomb the same places twice. When you have artificial intelligence, when you have automation, when you can create so many targets, often spending, less than a minute on a target that at the end of the day is killing families, So that allows you to continue wars, often even for political purposes, it could be, for much longer than you could in the past.
Yuval, good to talk to you. Yuval Abraham, the journalist at the Israeli-Palestinian publication Plus 972. The IDF had said in the report there was no comment on this data and said it only targets terrorists.